passion, her flaxen hair pooling on the black satin sheets. She was pretty. Not as pretty as Jem, but then no one was. Lore shook the image of the goth, half-soul-shredder doctor out of his head, because she was in love with a human jerk named Kynan, and Lore hadn't truly had a shot with her anyway. That he couldn't climax because he was worried about snuffing this mystery species demon chick was really fucking funny, considering that he killed for money, with no qualms, no regrets, and there were definitely worse ways to go than death by orgasm. But Jem seemed to have opened up a vein in him, one that ran with pansy-ass feelings instead of blood. And in truth, there was a reason he hadn't had sex in decades, even though his Seminus breeding gave him the overwhelming need to screw every female who crossed his path. Fortunately for him, his human side allowed him to handle those urges himself, unlike purebred Sems, who had to have a female partner, or die. When Lore had female partners, they died. With a frustrated roar, he tore himself away from April, May, June, and fisted his cock in his gloved hand. His release was hard and fast, and, as expected, no more satisfying than if he'd been by himself. And now, with nothing to distract him, he couldn't ignore the handprint-shaped welt that burned on his chest. Lore had to go. No more stalling. After 3 weeks of avoidance, mainly to piss off his boss, it was time to take his punishment like a man. Well, a half-man, half-incubus. The female rolled over, watched him with drowsy eyes. He still wasn't sure why he'd fallen off the celibacy wagon for her, except maybe for the fact that she'd been in the right place, right time, when he'd gotten yet another text from Eidolon MD. Christ! The guy just had to include the MD in his signature, as if the entire underworld didn't know what he was. The reminder that his brother was a respected doctor who saved lives, while Lore was nothing but a low-life half-breed killer, had sent him into a destructive, downward spiral that involved a lot of alcohol and a proposition for April, May, June. Still, he was eventually going to have to face Eidolon and his other brothers again, no matter what Lore had promised his sister, because he had a feeling that if his newfound brothers wanted to find him, they would. And they didn't seem like the types to respect space and privacy. "I told you I'm not in season," April, May, June said, her voice sleepy with sexual satiation. "I can't get pregnant." "Doesn't matter." He tucked himself back into his leather pants. "I'm sterile." At least, that was what one of the other brothers, Shade, had told him. Lore wasn't sure how he felt about that, but it was definitely for the best. She sighed and fell back against the pillows. "Then why did you just cream all over my floor? And why are you still wearing that glove?" "To reduce the chances that I'll kill you." Anyone who touched the bare skin of his right arm and hand, marked by the color-diluted glyphs called a dermoire, that snaked from shoulder to fingernail, dropped dead on contact. He'd worn a jacket and gloves around everyone except his sister for decades. But if he orgasmed or summoned his gift, he could kill right through the protective leather, which was why, during sex, he tried not to touch his partners as he neared climax. Tried, because with very few exceptions, something had always gone wrong. The female bared her teeth, which, in the last couple of seconds, had grown sharper and longer. "You think you can take me?" "I just did, honey." "I know I can." He patted his pocket to make sure she hadn't lifted his wallet. Then,